welcome to another Backyard Professor video. I'm Kerry Schertz, the Backyard Professor. Once again, I'm discussing the argument that the Book of Mormon has no evidence in its favor whatsoever, in any way, shape, or form. I believe that argument is simply false. I've been using Diane Worth's Decoding Ancient America, brand new, 2007, a guide to the archaeology of the Book of Mormon, where she has brought out some new information, very interesting information on the Feast of Tabernacles, as discussed in the book of Mosiah, and by John Twetness, the LDS scholar, who discusses this Sukkot, this Feast of Tabernacles, in Mosiah's coronation on King Benjamin, found in the first 4 or 5 chapters in the book of Mosiah and the book of Mormon, as a genuine Jewish festival that the Nephites did keep in the Law of Moses. Diane Worth has found many, many parallels with a Mesoamerican festival called Cha'ak. And the parallels are quite interesting, actually. I was kind of stunned when I read this part of the book. The original purpose of the feast was to pray for rain. This is the Feast of Festivals, the Sukkot. The Maya Cha'ak ceremony had the same purpose, to pray for rain, especially if there was a drought. Twetness also notes that there is a close tie between the crowning of the king and the prayer for rain. The year's new agricultural cycle usually had its first annual rainfall during the Feast of Tabernacles, so that makes perfectly good sense. Twetness also says that Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles, was the reenactment of Jehovah's enthronement as King of the universe and controller of the elements. The Hebrew king, of course, was the symbolic substitute for Jehovah. He supervised the activities at the Feast of the Tabernacles. Sacrifices were also performed at this feast, demonstrating that atonement is available through the shedding of the blood, Leviticus 17:11. The festival is similar to our Thanksgiving feasts that we have in our November. Participants thanked God for current and past blessings. We mentioned that the Hebrew name Feast of Tabernacles, Sukkot, means the Feast of Booths. They would build these little booths with green leaves and foliage all around them over the top. And she has a picture of this. The Cha'ak ceremony of the Mayan also built this type of booth, and they put gourds where they put liquid in them, and they had all the leaves and the live branches and all that they built their booths also. It was in charge of a shaman, of course. The ancient Mayan king was a shaman. In a way, the shaman was a priest, although he was not ordained to the same priesthood held by the Nephites and the Hebrews, of course. When a Mayan shaman was in charge of the Cha'ak, he was considered their supreme god, just as the Hebrew king represented God. This reminds us very much of King Benjamin's speech, doesn't it? In preparation, an altar was built under the direction of the shaman. It was composed of young leafy branches, corn plants, and gourds that were hung over a table. The top of the structure is considered a doorway or a portal between our natural world and the supernatural world. I thought that was really interesting. David Friedel says this wooden sky represents the cosmos, where it is hoped that the rain gods will hear their plea for rain. The table altar at the Cha'ak represented the center of the world. The construction itself represents the creation of the cosmos that exists as it existed in the beginning of time. Twetness has noted, in a sense, Sukkot symbolized the creation of the world. Both these ceremonies celebrated the creation, bringing the sacred past into the present. That's on page 28 and 29 of Worth. Similar to the custom of the Hebrews, the Maya shook the arched branches over their altar table. This symbolized the thunder. It was at the Feast of Tabernacles where Jesus said, "I am the light and life of the world." It's important to understand the things of nature, light, water, the spiritual significance of these things that point to Christ. Christ also taught, "I am the living water." The Nephites understood these concepts, as is shown in Mosiah 16:9, where Abinadi taught that Christ is the life and the life of the world, yea, a light that is endless. This scripture was written in 148 BC. It's possible that the Feast of Tabernacles was performed during the time of King Benjamin, as recorded in Mosiah chapters 2 through 6. Tvetnes takes us through the first few chapters of the activities in Mosiah: the coronation of Mosiah, the gathering of the people at the temple site, the sacrifices of animals for offerings, a tower being constructed for giving speeches to the people, and the giving of speeches. At the Jewish Feast of Tabernacles, words were spoken from ancient records. This bears some similarity to the speech given by King Benjamin. King Benjamin didn't necessarily pray for rain on that occasion, but he did speak of prosperity. And usually, prosperity and rain went together. So the connection is there still. This list makes a good case that the idea that the Maya may have acquired this tradition from the Nephites, who may very well have had a Feast of Tabernacles during King Benjamin's reign, that's plausible. Both the Feast of Tabernacles and the Cha-Cha-Ak, both of these are still performed today, both in ancient Israel, and in Mesoamerica, by the modern day people. So these similarities between the Hebrew Feast of Tabernacles and the Mesoamerican Mayan Cha-Cha-Ak, the connection is, or could be, in Mosiah, in the Book of Mormon, where the same exact reenactment occurs in Mosiah chapters 2 through 6. I think that is quite remarkable. The Book of Mormon promises much, and it delivers. This idea of ancient feasts, because they kept the law of Moses. And Nephi recorded that. He said, we did try and strive to observe all of the ordinances and laws of Moses, including the feasts. Now we find very similar situations in Mesoamerica also, that are still performed today. This argument that the Book of Mormon has nothing in its favor, that argument is simply false.